Welcome to the first episode of the Physically Jacked and Financially Stacked podcast. So huge excited to be launching this one. Now, before we begin, what I want to do is offer you a free place on our 7-figure scaling system mastermind for 1 month. To enter this competition to celebrate the launch of the podcast, all you very simply need to do are these very easy 3 things. Number 1, subscribe to the podcast. Number 2, leave a 5-star review with some kind words. Number 3, share this to your Instagram stories or some form of social media, and we'll be picking 5 people who can join our 7-figure scaling system mastermind for 1 month completely free to help you blow up your fitness business. Now, pitch over. Now, today, episode number 1, we can talk about my story because I haven't actually talked about much about where I went from being a failed personal trainer, being overweight when I was younger, to an estate agent, to creating the largest fitness business in Europe for online coaching, moving to Dubai and completely transforming my life. So to roll back through the years, we're going to go back to how I started, how my journey's progressed, and how I've gotten to where I am now. So to roll back a long time ago, I'm now 33. Back to when I was 17, 18, I just wanted to get in shape. So I decided to become qualified as a personal trainer with what's called Premier Training back then. Training was awful. Learned really poor information in terms of nutrition, exercise execution, but it was to make you safe to be able to train people. Now, from there, I went to go and work at the very first gym group in the entire country of the UK. So if you're from the wonderful grey British Isles, you will know the gym group. So I was in the very first one in 2008, and that was based in Guildford. And I was PTing there for maybe 6 to 12 months, and I absolutely failed awfully. I was terrible at sales, really introverted, which is ironic now, I'm talking on podcasts and do social media all the time. So I couldn't really sell or engage with people very well. Also wasn't in great shape in that time either. And just generally the whole thing sort of flopped and just didn't really do very well. So from that point on, I decided I had enough of that, went into ski season, did that for 3-4 months. And I was like to reflect on what I wanted to do with my life, because it was a bit of a turning point, which you might be right now, or you may be stuck in a position where you're a personal trainer doing like endless hours and not sure how to get off the gym floor and maybe do online, or you've got an online business and you don't know how to get to the next level. So at that point, I basically conceded defeat, and I was like, okay, what I want to do is I want to go and work a proper job. I remember one of my friends at the time, he went into real estate, and I thought, oh, that sounds quite glamorous. So I was like, I went and became an estate agent. So I basically sold myself to the devil, gave up on the fitness dream, went in and got a proper sort of 9-to-5 job. Now, this is a big turning point in my life and happened on a complete whim. I came back from a workout and literally just went on, I can't remember, it was like Indeed or Reed or something like that, looking for a job. And this advertisement came up, and it was like lettings consultant. And ironically, I remember the salary at the time, I think it was like £12,000 a year, which we make sometimes in a day. Now, it gives context, the reality of where you've come from. Now, taking that back, well, there's a quite funny story about that actually, ironically, is that the job advertisement in terms of the location said Walton. And I thought it meant Walton on the Hill, which was like 2 minutes from where I live. Ironically, it was actually in a place called Walton on Thames in Surrey in the UK, which was about an hour drive. So I was like, I went to the interview and I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to just try a job, see what happens. And the first day driving there, it took me 90 minutes to get there. And I remember calling my partner at the time being like, I can't deal with this, and was like having a breakdown, and be like, I'm just going to quit, not turn up and just do it. And she actually managed to talk me into keep going. Cut a long story short, I was awful at that at the beginning as well, because I was very introverted, couldn't sell anything, didn't really have any confidence, until it finally started to come out of me. And with persistence and relentless action, just being open to learning and being coachable, I managed to learn scale skills, how to communicate with people, and how much almost be like a chameleon and deal with different situations. So from there, I ended up becoming a manager of a branch for letting agents, doing like £1 million a month by the time I was like 23, I think that was. So it was in like 2 years. I had way little experience, didn't really know what I was doing, but I was given all this responsibility at the time. And I thought, okay, awesome. And I was like, my goal at that time, to give some context, was to make, I was like, okay, the dream situation financially, I just want to make 100 grand a year by the time I'm 30. Now, looking back at that now, that's like the monthly goal. So like things change very quickly in that perspective. Now, from there, in terms of being the estate agents, I worked within that corporate job for probably 5-6 years, learned loads in terms of sales, management, marketing, how to manage difficult people, how to manage difficult customers, all those sort of things. And within that experience, I then started training at a gym called Physique Warehouse in West Molesey, which is probably one of my favorite gyms in the UK, where it all began. And I started to get into the network of people who were in social media. And I started to see what the opportunity was with social media in terms of, okay, this is a free platform. I can put myself out there and then show the world what I can do. Now, with that, I actually came my own transformation when I was like 26, 27. So at this point, I had never really got fully lean. I'd never got abs, never got in shape. I'd never really done anything. I worked out all the time, did all the wrong things, never really got anywhere. I was like vanilla, just never really did anything. At that point, I made a big action. I asked for help and I got a coach. So with that, for the first time for one summer, I think maybe like 2015, I got abs. I was like, this is fucking awesome. And that was a big learning experience. Now, if you're a fitness trainer listening to this, or you're in the fitness industry, you can probably relate the carryover between fitness and business. So one of the big things with that is if you want to be successful in your body, it's going to take a couple of different things. One thing is going to be being consistent. You've got to work out pretty much every day. You've got to eat the right foods every day, and you've got to be very organized. If you do those two things and you apply that to business, you will generally succeed, because you just need to be relentless and you need to be consistent and you need to get there. So with that approach that I learned from fitness, and then suddenly spotting the opportunity in terms of what was going on in social media, and then like me documenting my own journey with that, I saw an opportunity. I saw what other people were doing. And an interesting way to think about like seeing what other people are doing and not necessarily copying them. If you think about like Picasso and Mozart or whoever in terms of an artist, a musician, like they essentially copied someone at some point. They took inspiration from someone else. And then once they got momentum, they got confidence, they made it their own. And that's very much what I did. So I looked at others in the fitness industry in 2016 maybe, 2017, who were doing online coaching, and I started to mirror it. How were they posting? What types of captions were they using? How were they talking? How were they documenting their own journey? And that's essentially what I did. I competed a few times, didn't do particularly well, worked with various coaches, really up-leveled my fitness knowledge and fitness skills so I could stand by my knowledge to say I'm one of the best trainers in the world. And I continue to do that today. So like in the summer, I'm going to Colorado to learn from Kasim Hansen, some practical in-person stuff. I work with new coaches all the time, and that self-development is a never-ending journey. Now, from being like in the estate agency role, I was essentially doing the Gary Vee side hustle, and two of the biggest inspirations for me in terms of like building business and building wealth were Gary Vaynerchuk. So in terms of his social media approach, in terms of being everywhere, giving value and just trying to help people. And then Grant Cardone in terms of from a sales point of view. And one of the favorite things I remember Grant Cardone always talking about was like omnipresence. So it's like being everywhere at all times. So like being on all platforms, being in front of people and being consistently relentless, and that will eventually get you to where you want to be. So from there, probably took me 2-3 years of working in my estate agency job full time and then building up my fitness business. And I remember at one point I was competing, so I was like training twice a day, working full time in a like pretty serious job, commuting an hour each way, and then also probably managing 200 fitness clients. Now, to give some context to people who say they have 50 clients, they don't have time to do the check-ins, they don't have time to do anything, that's complete bullshit. And if that's you right now, you should probably reach out to help from a mentor, because you're going to be going around in circles for a very long period of time. Now, from here, when my business started to get to the point where I was earning substantially more from my fitness online business than my professional career, I made the big leap in terms of thinking like, fuck this, I'm going to leave the 9 to 5, I'm going to go solo, I'm going to be able to do what I want, when I want, with who I want, which has always been my life's ambition. From that point, I remember working at a state agency, which is a fairly harsh world in terms of how you get paid. If I gave in my notice, I would get a month that I'd have to work, and in that month I wouldn't get paid any commission, so I'd get paid basically half of what I should do. So I was like, fuck this shit, I'm not doing that. So I remember the day I got paid, like walking into work, clearing all my shit and basically being like, I'm leaving and I'm not coming back. Went home, and I remember my boss calling me being like, you have to come back. I was like, no I don't. And for me that was one of the most truly liberating moments of my life, because I remember distinctly realizing like, okay, as long as I back myself, I work super, super hard, realistically I never have to fucking listen to anyone else ever again. And that for me is freedom, and that's what you can do if you have the right mindset and the right attitude and put in the work. Now, from that point onwards, ironically, actually, if you want to watch, there's a video a long way back in my IGTV, which was me. I just wanted to film it afterwards. I filmed as soon as I left my job, just like rambling off the top of my head in terms of how I felt at the time. And it's fucking awesome, to be fair. So that's probably back there from 2019. It was, I think, the 25th of February that I left my job. I still remember that date. Week after that, I went to the Arnold Classic in the US, to Columbus, which was a wonderful experience. So from that point onwards, business tended to continue to flourish, did really, really well, invested in mentors for myself, worked out all the things not to do, worked all the things to do. And that's one of the biggest things I help people now with our fitness business mastermind, is 7-figure scaling systems. Because the most important thing I tell people is not what to do, it's what not to do. Because the amount of time you can waste going down the wrong rabbit hole of doing stupid shit, which I've done all of that, is a huge red flag, which is going to hold you back. Now, to talk about one of the worst things that happened to me in terms of my business career, which was pretty mortifying at the time, I think it was summer of July of like 2021 maybe. I was pretty stressed at the time, so planned okay with my wife at the time. I was like, we're gonna go to London. We're gonna stay in a Mandarin Oriental hotel, take some time out and like enjoy ourselves. And I was trying to relax. So I was like, okay, to go and do that, I need to go work out really early. So I'm going to train legs like 7:30, 8 a.m. Got up at 5 to 8, eat, checked my emails that morning. And it turns out I had an email from Stripe, who are a payment processor, who were basically going to shut my business down. I also had an email from a third-party software company we use, basically saying like, hey, Charlie, we warned you about this. You're fucked. Your business is over. And essentially what happened was that with payment processors like Stripe, whoever, they need to keep their payment dispute rate below 1%. Otherwise, credit card companies like Amex, MasterCard, Visa won't work with them. And what happened, whereas I had a lower ticket program, which we call Shred&8, which you can still sign up for, what was happening with that is we were getting too many payment disputes. So someone would sign up for a program, it'd be monthly payments, and they take out like 10 payment disputes. My dispute rate would be off the chart. And they warned me about this, and I was like, it'd be fine. And I didn't really like deal with it. So that for me was a very traumatic process, because I was like, fuck, I'm not gonna be able to bring any income in. I'm not really gonna be able to we're gonna lose all our recurring revenue. I'm not gonna be able to do any transactions. I was like, this is a major problem. And also 2 months before this, I just bought a property in Dubai as an investment property, invested a ton of money in crypto. So also conveniently, probably the worst time where I had the lowest amount of funds. Now, that's one of the big lessons I also learned from this experience, is that having a war chest of money on the side is always important, particularly the bigger your business gets, because the higher overheads are in terms of staff and expenses. So if you have something like this happen, you've got time, because I know if I have time, I can solve any problem. Now, with this issue, I managed to sweet talk working with this company in terms of letting Stripe letting us continue to operate with them. And they are an amazing platform, so I can't complain about in that respect. But I did lose £20,000 a month in recurring revenue, which is obviously a shitload of money. That's like £250,000 a year, which obviously was painful. But as a lesson learned, so hopefully that's some knowledge for you. Now, from that point onwards, working with various mentors and various different things, we managed to scale our business up very dramatically to doing multiple seven figures. And within that process happened was the biggest change to me was, how do I go from being, I hate the word fucking influencer, someone called me the other day, but like an influencer, solopreneur, to like a CEO and starting to employ people, manage teams and run everything like a slick operation. Because as your business scales, you will have what's called friction of scale. So things will start to get complicated, things will start to break, things won't start to work. Like if you've got a system that works with 50 clients, it probably won't work when you've got 500 or 1,000, which we quickly ran into. So there's a saying, and that's new levels, new devils, and we came to that very, very quickly. So from that point of view, one of the best things that I did was being in part of a network of people who also have these issues, or having a mentor who could help me, being like, okay, this is how you overcome this challenge. And that's why, like, even to this day, I continue to get mentorship and people who are ahead of me to give me the guidance and to save me making the mistakes that I've made in the past, or mistakes that they've maybe made, and give me some wisdom and guidance. I remember being a young man, being one of the key things thinking about was like, what the fuck's life experience? Like, that means nothing. The older I get, the more I realize the power of wisdom and experience in different situations gives you a better ability to make decisions. Now, if you look at the most successful people in the world, if you look at, say, for example, Warren Buffett, he does very little. All he does is like read 3-4 hours a day, but he makes 1 to 2 big decisions a year, which make him billions and billions of dollars. And that's very much the same thing you need to do within your fitness business as it starts to scale. Is the key thing is making the right decisions at the right times, bringing the right people, firing the right people, firing the wrong people. And in with that instance, I would also say one of the biggest things I've learned is that you need to hire slow and fire fast. At the beginning, we were hiring people, just anyone I could get in who I thought might be able to do a job for us. The reality, that was a huge mistake, and we've had to churn over certain people to try and find the right team. Now, the number one thing that I learned also recently within our business is you need to have trust. If you do not have trust with your employees and those around you and create that family environment, you will not be able to have a business that can run by itself and doesn't need you to be dragged into it. Now, from that point on view, I think it was in 2021 where I started to get very much into like really liking Dubai, loving Dubai. It's like the best place in the world in terms of from a fitness point of view. Start of January 2022, just nearly a year and a week ago, I had probably the lowest point in my life. I decided to move to Dubai, because I love it here. Best in world fitness, I love sunshine, didn't really like UK, didn't want to pay tax. It's just a better lifetime, what I really wanted, and an inspiring network of people here. But I had probably the lowest point in my life in terms of, I remember on the Wednesday saying to my previous partner, look, I'm going to Dubai. Like, you can either come or you can't come. I knew she was going to say she didn't want to go, so we ended up getting divorced. Thursday, I had to give up my house and my personal possessions I'd spent the last 12 years accumulating and basically of my life paying for, including like a really nice house, also some really nice cats. Day after that, whilst in the Doubletree Hilton in Kingston hotel, just before about to speak on a big podcast, my Instagram account gets disabled, which was our primary lead generation income source at the time. Now, as you can imagine, this was pretty shit. I can't really think of another way to say it. So obviously, my personal life and business life starts to implode very quickly. From that point of view, that also taught me one of the biggest life lessons from there is to like always be humble, because at some point, probably 2-3 months before that, like we'd had our record months in terms of revenue, like we were doing crazy numbers with everything. And I almost thought like I was walking on water and untouchable and probably starting to get a bit of an ego. This brought me back down to earth very quickly, and how quickly the rug can be pulled from under your feet. And it's made me much more humble and much more willing to help other people. And I'd say my life mission and the biggest skills that I have and gift I have is the ability to help people maximize their potential, whether it's within their fitness business, within their own personal fitness, or just within their mindset. So that for me was a very challenging period of time. Very fortunately, one of our wonderful followers and clients now, Greg, actually worked for Facebook and managed to get my Instagram account back, which was phenomenal. I can remember the exact moment being in a coffee shop in London about to speak at a public event, and I literally just like jumped up and down like I'd won the lottery. So it's wonderful. Something that will always stick in my memory. From there, moved to Dubai, and I've been here now for a year, and I can truly say this is the best place in the world. If you're a fitness entrepreneur, this is the place you need to be. In terms of the only drawbacks for me, summer's hot as arseholes, and the time zone for me is in terms of the US and Mexico is difficult in terms of how that works with calls and logistics. So talking about Mexico, actually, ironically, one of the stories I've skipped is we also set up within the scaling of our business a call center. So with any business, you're going to have 3 different wheels of it. So you can have lead generation, fulfillment, and sales. So at any point, you're constantly going to be working on one of these. So most people get stuck at lead generation. They can't generate leads, they can't generate traffic. If you start to scale that like crazy, you run into the next problem, which is sales. So if you sell your programs over the phone, then you're going to be stuck in a situation where you're not going to be able to handle the amount of sales calls coming in or consultation calls. I remember at one point I was doing like 30 calls a week, and it was just like madness, plus like doing 200 check-ins a week, whatever. And at that point I was like, okay, I need some help with this. I need to build a team. So I was like, who do I know who's really good at sales? At that point, COVID was happening. My best friend from school, Jack, lived in Mexico. Now Jack works in timeshare, so he's very good at sales. And obviously with COVID happening, didn't have any work. So I was like, this is what I'm thinking of doing. This is what I need help with. Could you help? He's like, yes, 100%. I also know some other people can help. And we basically start to build a team from that. So from that removed bottleneck number 2, which was in terms of being able to sell people. From number 3, once we started to be able to crank leads, we managed to convert them. Number 3, in terms of fulfilling this actually brought us the next challenge. We were signing up at one point like 10 clients a day, and we were at the point where like our coaches couldn't handle it anymore. And I remember hiring like 7 coaches in 10 days, which in hindsight was a terrible decision, but that was my own naivety in business. And we rode the storm and everything was fine. But the big thing I say for you, whatever's holding you back in your business right now, is either going to be one of those 3 points. You need to identify what that bottleneck is, remove that, and that's going to help take you to another level. And that's one of the key things I do working with people in 7-figure scaling systems, is like my zone of genius is business strategy and identifying like what you should do next, when and how, so then you can operate and execute that to then move to the next level. So from there, one of the best things that happened to me whilst moving to Dubai was being in the right network. Now, within that network was actually a great friend of mine and now Mastermind client, Antoine. So Antoine I knew from some previous business networking groups and masterminds I was part of. And he basically, in a lot of respects, like just said, look, I want you to help me with my business. I'll pay you whatever you want. At that point, I was like, I'd been thinking about doing like fitness business coaching and fitness mastermind for a while, because I love talking about business. I'm really passionate about it. I can talk about it all day long. And I can genuinely add huge amounts of value to people. So I was like, and one of the reasons I didn't do it, to be honest with you, was because I was worried about what other people would say. And I was also worried about what some of my friends who were business coaches would say, or them falling out with me, which we can come on to in another minute. But with that, I credit Antoine for starting basically the mastermind, because he reached out to me. I started coaching, was like, you know what, I love this. This is so much fun. And for me, it's like, the game of strategy and like chess with business. So credit to him. From there, we started 7-Figure Scaling Systems, which has absolutely blown up the last 6 months. And we've had the pleasure of helping coaches all over the world blow up their business. From that point onwards, we will be continuing to grow that throughout the rest of 2023 so we can have as much impact and change as many lives as possible. So one of the things that I really want to focus on with my life is how much I can change other people's lives, which is why I started the fitness business, because I take a huge amount of fulfillment and like that warm, fuzzy feeling when someone gets results within the business, within their fat loss journey, because I used to be fat. But the reality is that I knew I couldn't do this alone. So it's like, okay, we have, say, for example, 1,000 clients in CJ coaching, so we can help 1,000 people. But it's like, okay, if I help 100, 200 trainers get to 1,000 clients, how many more people can help? So that's generally our mission now, is help more trainers have impact, to change more lives, to help people have a better life, be confident, be happy, and have the best life they have. So plans for this podcast, we're going to be talking through exactly what I do from our own fitness business in terms of scaling, managing the team, lead generation, operations, sales, absolutely everything. So we're going to give you golden nuggets and gems that we teach within our mastermind, which we actually run within our business. And our biggest USP is the fact that, guess what? I actually have an online fitness business. So all these business fitness mentors out there who are like selling basically shit of like, okay, you want to get more clients, you need to post more on Instagram. You need to be a better coach. It's like, okay, yeah, you need to do those things, but that's fairly fucking obvious, to be honest with you. And the reason I can give people insights in terms of what's working right now, not what worked 2-3 years ago, is because we're actively doing it every single day in terms of we still have a fitness business operating. So that's how we can help you, because we actually have skin in the game doing it every day, unlike these older mentors who aren't actually running an online fitness business or never have done, which is an important thing to think about. So this first episode of the podcast wrapped up. As you remember from the start of this, if you would like to win a free pace on the 7-Figure Scaling System Mastermind, please leave us a 5-star review, subscribe, and share this podcast to your stories. I will pick 5 people within 4 weeks' time. And if you're interested in joining 7-Figure Scaling Systems Mastermind, message me on my main IG account, Scale, to find out how we can